This episode of Stogie Geeks, we interview Andy Thorp King. He is a speaker, investor, spy novelist, an ex-bodybuilder, a serial entrepreneur. What's one of the secrets to his success? Cigars. Andy has had more successful ventures in 1 year than some might say had within a lifetime. He started his music career managing big-name bands like Hatebreed, couple others in the punk rock scene. Can't wait to hear that. That's going to be awesome. Then he created 2 of his own independent labels. Today, we begin to learn firsthand the principles Andy uses to coach his clients about his latest book. His book is called Failure Rules: 5 Rules of Failure for Entrepreneurs, Creatives, and Authentics. Stogie Geeks episode 375 starts right now.
This is Security Weekly, for security professionals, by security professionals. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where cigars burn slow, ashes fall fast, and cocktails flow steady. It's the Stogie Geek Show. Welcome, everyone, to the Stogie Geek Show. Joe and I are already silly.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Hozempa, a.k.a. Joe Hollywood, is here with me in studio.
I'm fired up. So we also have remote Drew, who is remote over in Texas. Look at you. You got some Stogie Geek swag going on in the background.
Got my banner.
Where are you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm all set up for the Stogie Geek mobile lounge.
Confidence. Confidence isn't walking into a room with your nose in the air, thinking you're better than anyone else. It's walking into a room and not having to compare yourself to anyone in the first place.
Cigars, perfected for more than 150 years. Yours to enjoy now.
Havana Cigar Club, located in Warwick, Rhode Island, is a great place to enjoy a drink and a cigar. Stogie Geeks listeners can find a $5 off coupon on our website by clicking the HCC logo.
Welcome to episode 375 of Stogie Geeks. I get to sit in the king's chair today. I am a king without a crown today. I'm a king without a crown, but I am your host, Joe Hozempa. Some of you know me as Joe Hollywood. Please email any of your complaints to paul@stogiegeeks.com. And if you want to say some nice things, you can email me at joeh@stogiegeeks.com. And to my left is Mr. Bill Brenner.
Well, how are you today?
I'm doing well. You have a shout out you want to give. Let's do it.
I sure do. So, Cybersecurity Summit, which is the newest member of the Cyber Risk Alliance family. I had the pleasure of going to their summit in Boston last Thursday, and as it turns out, they are one of us indeed, because at the end of the event, they're passing out the cohibas.
Nice.
So, shout out to Bradford Rand and team.
Nice. Have Bradford call me if he needs product recommendation or any promotions. We can take it to the next level.
I suspect he'd give it to you.
Level, I can be reached at joeh@stogiegeeks.com. And we have none other than Mr. Jason Albuquerque.
What is happening, Joe?
Good to see you.
So we're not doing the blind test this month because Paul's not here, but that's okay. We'll push it out to next month. It's all good. It's well worth this interview, man. I'm super excited to have Andrew here. When you told me about this interview, I got stoked, man. So this is awesome.
I know. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to someone who is more fascinating than myself, Mr. Andy Thorp King. He's a speaker, investor, spy novelist, an ex-bodybuilder, a serial entrepreneur. I've started using myself serial entrepreneur stuff. I have some gigs that I do. I love that term. That term fascinates me. Business structures fascinate me. Business models fascinate me. Some of the retarded decisions that businesses make really fascinate me there too. But I cannot wait to talk about your book. It's called Failure Rules, 5 Rules for Failure for Entrepreneurs, Creatives, and Authentics. And I have been breeding authenticity since I was a director of advancement in one of my former lives for a school, and talking about how if they need to pivot and move, they need to be authentic. Long story painless, the board thought I had snakes crawling out of my head and school's closed. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about your book and talk about, I can't wait to even get to punk rock topics there. So, Andrew, welcome to Stogie Geeks.
Thanks for having me, man. Good to be here with you guys, fellas. And Joe, you may be a king without a crown, but at least you're in the company of another king, even if I'm a king and nothing, because I'm not only a serial entrepreneur, I'm also a serial failure, which is why I wrote this book. It talks about all about how the failures actually became pivotal moments that molded future success.
I have a lot of failing moments too. You know, I feel like this is like going to be a psychology interview. I have a lot of, so you are I get everything. Talk to me about the spy novelist.
Okay, that's an interesting place to jump off. So there was a time in my life where I had transitioned out of running my record labels full time because I ran into some trouble. I had to lay off staff, lay off the publicist, close down the office, pivoted to kind of a managed IP rights model, and began doing financial planning in the Midwest. And did that for a few years and didn't really get enough traction. It takes about 5 years to get a practice going before the 2008 financial crisis hit. And I started losing clients because I was in the auto belt and they had to cash out their accounts, and things started getting pretty hairy there. And so in that kind of difficult, hard time, failure moment, the alchemy of that chaos, I decided, look, I'm going to kind of ignite another latent ambition, which I always do in times of chaos, that I don't want to wait till I retire to pursue. And that was to start writing spy novels. So it was kind of my healthy escape. I would read, everything from Vince Flynn to Ted Bell to Daniel Silva, at night, and Brad Thor, and really got kind of into that style and that world, and it fascinated me and animated me. So I just began writing my own spy novel, and with starts and stops throughout 6-7 years, I finally finished it, self-published it. It's called Blaze Operation Persian Trinity, and it's centered around kind of this tattooed, cigar-smoking, Irish-American anti-hero kind of guy that helps to thwart an Iranian nuclear program and Stuxnet 2.0 computer virus. And so that was kind of the plot of the book.
That sounds like a good read. So email me the link offline, or chat or text or whatever you want.
Sure.
That sounds like a good read for sure.
Yeah, I know for our cybersecurity friends who join Stogie Geeks and our listeners, that whole Stuxnet piece is going to be very intriguing to all our cyber folks.
I figured that would catch your ear with the cybersecurity intersection here.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually back in 2014, I started. I had ambitions to writing a book, and I started. Structure-wise, I started doing the chapters and what they would be and the titles and stuff like that. And I wrote the first chapter, and then I got a job. So
employment screws everything up, doesn't it?
I got a job, and then I was like, oh, cool. I like eating. I got a job on the radio, actually, which was cool.
Yeah.
I had my own radio show, which was super cool and stuff like that. And then, then it's been a blur since then. But yeah, that's something that I would always like to like to do someday. And
I mean, going down that rabbit hole, Andrew, what is the process of writing a book? I've always thought about it. I've always found it intriguing, just what is everybody that I talk to who's authored a book says it's probably one of the most stressful and grueling periods that they've ever gone through. But
my wife just.
But it's a
went through
huge process. Talk to me about how do you begin? What's the structure? How do you lay out what that book is going to look like and then that end product. Like, talk to me about that. I'm super interested.
I think it depends, right? Because I write fiction and nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're different. For fiction, I think I have to really plot it out a lot more because it's harder to rearrange it after you get going. So for fiction, I really plot out. Every chapter has to have, a certain element. It has to have a suspenseful, almost cliffhanger at the end. Mm-hmm. It has to have a significant personal development of some of the main characters or the characters in the chapter. So it has to create some sort of drama in each chapter kind of included. There has to be a problem created both internally with the character and externally in the world around them to get the reader to read to the next chapter, right? So that's the hook from chapter to chapter. So I kind of have to map that out more end to end from a outlining perspective. And really, that's the hardest part, is just coming up with the ingredients. It's like cooking. You put all the shit on the fucking counter, and you have it all out there, and then you can start cooking once you have the vision kind of complete end to end. For the nonfiction book, this is a little different for Failure Rules. And I'll hold up the cover again here for viewers. Failure Rules, the 5 Rules of Failure for Entrepreneurs, Creatives, and Authentics. Available everywhere books are consumed online. So for this book, I started with just an idea list of all kind of the inspirational inputs, the virtual mentors I wanted to study that kind of help buoy me through times of pivot, of failure, of hard times. And this is everything from music to podcasts to authors to actual in-person mentors in my life, and that was my first ingredients list. And then I just began kind of writing out my stories. And then from there, I looked at each story and decided what is kind of the reader-facing lesson and or principle that can be wrought from this particular story. And throughout that, I ended up identifying 5 really overarching principles, which I call rules, the 5 rules of failure. And collapsing underneath each one of them, then were kind of like these, tranches of chapters that attach to that rule. And each chapter then would kind of have a sub-lesson of its own. And that's kind of how I structured it. And so then within that, it was layering on top of my story other analogous stories of virtual mentors or people I know in my life to kind of bolster the idea of that lesson and roll it up to that rule. So it kind of found its form and its structure organically, but pretty quickly. And then it became kind of a formula that made the actual writing and execution of the book easy and fun and, somewhat iterative, but within the bounds of a prescribed structure.
Very cool. How much is the back and forth with like the publisher, right? I mean, is this something that you write and then you have to submit to a publisher? They have to read it and then do some editing or work with you on that? Like, what's that process look like?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I guess it depends on who you're working with.
Yeah.
I chose to work with Scribe Media, who is really like a formal professional service for self-publishing. So I continue to own the rights. I hire them. They have a team of all seasoned, credentialed professionals in the book world who've worked for the top publishing companies. They've done books for best-selling authors like David Goggins, who's the triathlete, ex-Navy SEAL. Can't Hurt Me. They did that book. They did the book for James Altucher, Choose Yourself, who's a big podcaster in the entrepreneurial space. So they know what they're doing. So I chose them, and the process was amazing. Very different from my spy novel where I just had one editor. This was a team of editors passing it around, lots of professional eyeballs on it, lots of back and forth. It took about a year to get the manuscript ready for publishing of the process of going back and forth with them. But what was amazing to me is my book is more on the long side. It's about 120,000 words. When I submitted it was around 100,000. I expected it to come back with slashes and chops and to be whittled down to 80,000 words. Instead, they advised me to write more. They advised me to enrich certain parts and add more. And it ended up becoming beefier, but also more cohesive and tied together. So that was a little bit of a surprise for me. But 100%, I mean, I think they took it from a really good book to not only a great book, but a book that was more structured for ease of read for, a wide array of, reader types.
That's awesome. Very cool. No, thanks for that insight, man. It's always been something that I've been curious about. And thought about
time.
Yeah, thought about doing myself at some point. So you may have just inspired me.
7 years in the writing and 1 year in the editing.
Unbelievable. That's commitment, man. That's commitment.
Yeah.
So you've written 2 books total so far, right?
2 books that have been published.
Yep.
I have I have another spy novel that's already written, just needs to be edited, and I have a co-author with that one. and that'll surface at some point. But 100% of my focus right now is on Failure Rules. This is kind of bigger than just a book. It's about the underlying message. The book is just one medium to present the message. I also do the YouTube stuff. I'm going on this podcast tour now. Eventually, I'm going to start my own Failure Rules podcast. I have the merchandise company, Soul and Fire Supply Company. Soul and Fire Smokewear is the smokewear, the cigar-oriented line within the company, and that kind of echoes and mirrors the ethos and slogans of the book. Also speaking and coaching service and stuff like that. So there's more tentacles around this message. So this is certainly my primary creative project at this point, but I haven't given up on writing spy novels either. That'll kind of be woven in over time, as I progress to promote Failure Rules.
Do you need someone to sell your podcast advertising?
When I get there, I'll let you know. We'll talk about it.
I'm pretty good at
Can't
it.
knock the hustle, Joe
I'm
Hollywood.
pretty-
Can't knock the hustle.
I'm pretty good at it.
You never know.
That's good to know.
Never know unless you ask.
Yeah, if you need any help with that, I'm pretty good at it.
Awesome.
All right, I'm gonna
that's
ask the host. Do you guys want to pivot to punk rock or cigars?
God.
I want to pivot to the punk rock.
Okay, me
let's do
too.
this.
This is
I
hitting me
talk
where
about
I live.
cigars so much, like, you know what I mean?
I mean, can we go around and just chat about what everybody's smoking first? So our
We're smoking
listeners.
cigars.
So, all right, cool.
No.
Easy peasy, easy peasy.
Joe and I have the black diamond.
Yeah, see, we got a little bit. Jason in his real life is a CISO, so we have to follow process, right? So the process is I am smoking the Diamond Crowned Wicked Cool Dark Cigar by Diamond Crown. It's the Black Diamond Emerald.
Yeah.
It's really tasty. I love it. What are you smoking, Bill?
As
Same?
am I. So
Same,
All right,
same.
There we go.
All right, I'm Rojas Street Taco Carnitas, baby.
Rojas Street Taco. And I already know what Andrew's smoking, but I don't want to steal his thunder. So go for it, Andrew.
Yeah, this is Rick Rodriguez Blend CAO. And as I just learned, it's pronounced correctly as Pylon. And it's the Robusto with the Habano Ecuadorian wrapper and Nicaraguan binder and filler. And it's a great, perfect afternoon smoke with my Death Wish black coffee.
Nice.
That's actually a great coffee
It is.
company.
Yeah.
But,
It is.
But we
The best.
that's my go-to.
we
You
the
sign
reason-
you sign up for their subscription service and they send you challenge coins and
Oh yeah.
patches and all kinds of good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good stuff over there. The reason why I know it's pronounced pylon is Steinbeck wrote a book called Tortilla Flats. It's one of my favorite books, right?
Nice.
Right, Tortilla Flats, and one of his friends was actually called Pylon, and it's like a kid who just kind of like sticks around, and they always helped him out and did that because he couldn't get out of his own way. I have a few pylons in my life, for sure.
Don't we all?
So it's like one of those things. Like it's funny because when I saw that stick on the shelf, and obviously the different vendors sent, General Cigars send us the cigar samples and all of that.
Yeah.
And I saw the name. The first thing I thought about was my friend Pylon. But anyway,
You're changing the way I, engage in this cigar experience forevermore now.
oh
I'm always-
yeah. Everything's a point of reference, which I do want to get to points within your book there too. Let's talk about the punk rock scene. You managed some big name brands. One of them being Hatebreed. That's crazy.
It's actually not true. I don't know how my publicist screwed that up. So,
Am I
Hatebreed's in the- and I write about Hatebreed a lot there.
Okay.
In the book, they were kind of pivotal from some of the lyrics and in terms of some of the themes of the book.
Sure.
But and manage is probably not the right word either. It's actually, I own record labels, so I would work with bands to help bring their records to the world, distribution and marketing. And so Hatebreed would not be one of them. Madball from New York City would be one. Blood for Blood in the Boston area.
Yes, yeah.
Slapshot, classic straight edge Boston band was one. Sheer Terror is a classic New York band that I work with. U.S. Bombs from L.A., which is fronted by the legendary pro skateboarder Dwayne Peters. Worked with them. The Business, a great classic, pub rock oi band from England. Mickey Fitz, the singer, passed away. God rest his soul. Bands like that.
Mm-hmm. That's super cool.
Did you say Slapshot was one of them?
Slapshot, yeah.
Slapshot,
Jack
rather.
Jones.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my younger years, I spent time working in a record store, and we played them all the time.
Yeah. They're still around. They're still touring. They're still doing their thing.
Good.
You know, and it's still Jack singing. It's different people in the band at different times, but yeah, they're still around. Still playing fast, straight, aggressive, old school hardcore.
I play guitar as a musical instrument. I went to Berklee College of Music for 2 years. Berklee would tell you that even the Ramones derives from jazz. However, I fully enjoy playing punk rock on a guitar. Still. Like, there's two things I thought I would grow out of is my punk rock, my love for punk rock, me being in my over mid-40s, and my non-morning personness syndrome.
I haven't done either of those. I'm just like you, man. I'm with you on that.
Now I'm up at 5:50 with no alarm because we have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, but we don't have
those are your alarms.
We don't have conversations, deep conversations at 5 o'clock in the morning. But like that's like super cool when you have a chance to like work with, because what some people don't understand is that like that's a business as well. Right?
Yeah.
Because the band is a product, right? You have to quote unquote put it on a shelf and or stage. You have to merchandise the product. You have to market the product. You have to create hype for the product. You have to create demand for the product. And you know,
you have to control the product from not screwing shit up.
You have
Depending on the temperament and or habits of the artist.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Jason, you being in you could relate to some of the good questions for this. This is like this is like being a CISO.
Listen, you know, and it's funny. Like the progression through my career, I went from, you know, running IT departments to running cybersecurity teams for, you know, very high-end managed service providers. Now I'm a chief operating officer of a technology firm, and the business of music is always interesting. You know, it's a different type of business. It's a different vertical, and I'm totally interested in figuring out how you manage and run that operation.
And
right?
it's changed a lot in this age.
It has, you know, and it's funny. Like, so when Joe first told me that we were going to start talking about punk rock music business, I totally went back in time. I'm one of those kids who grew up in the city, you know, 10 years old. The first thing I did was grab a skateboard. I was a skater, a skate rat, listening to like Minor Threat, Sex Pistols, Social Distortion, you know, a lot of those old school bands, those punk bands. But then a weird thing happened in like the late 80s, early 90s. The skateboarding scene flipped to hip hop. And then I started listening to hip hop, right?
Yeah.
So I started listening to hip hop, and then it's gone from there, right? I went totally down that hip hop, realm and dove deep there. But my whole base to like really getting into music as a child who started pushing away from their parents and really building some autonomy for myself was listening to the Sex Pistols and listening to Minor Threat and listening to all these punk rock bands. You know what I mean? It was such an awesome time in my life where I was getting out of the house. I was meeting up with my buddies. We were skating. We were causing havoc, running around the city. And just, you know, music was part of the lifestyle. But, how, you know, as a business now, how are you marketing to, like, the kids and marketing to the adults at the same time? You know, it would intrigue me to the fact where I'd sneak into shows. Like, I'd go sneak into shows in Providence and try to get in as, like, a 16-year-old, you know, or a 15-year-old. Yeah. So talk to me about the business of music, man. It's not often that I get to interview somebody who's in the industry.
Yeah. So I've been doing it a long time. I started my first label, Thorp Records, in like 2000. Signed the legendary New York hardcore band Breakdown. And then in 2006, I kind of branched off, and it was less kind of straight old school hardcore. And I started Sailor's Grave Records, which was more oriented towards street punk, oi, Irish folk punk, psychobilly. Psychobilly is like, you know, a mix of rockabilly and punk. And started doing that. And between the two labels over the course of 20 plus years, it's, you know, I don't know, over 120 recordings, merch rights for about half the bands. And now kind of in a state where, you know, because it's not my primary pursuit, it's kind of in the background. I go through like waves of investment in it. So I'll invest in a batch of records, like 3 or 4 records within a year's time or a year and a half's time. And then I kind of walk away from it, let those records ride, promote those, work with those bands. Like right now, there's kind of 3 active bands that I'm most in touch with. This band, The Goddamn Gallows, who's kind of mixes kind of like, they mix like bluegrass and thrash metal together. This is a wild band with lots of instrumentation.
Yeah.
Think of like a hillbilly band trying to play Slayer. And then
they are awesome. I have followed them since when MySpace was fading.
Shit.
Yeah. And I believe I'd have to check my old iTunes account, but I remember downloading I wish it's in my car, because now it's like it's on my official iPod. That's like my iPod for life, and it doesn't hook up to that thing. It was a goddamn Gallows, and there was another one where the bass player sang, and it was
Cats.
I saw the Coffin Cats. I saw the Coffin Cats less than 6 months ago. They came.
That's one of the biggest bands on my label.
Matter of fact, my wife walks around. This is a true story. My wife will pick up our kids to school wearing a Coffin Cats hat. She I took her to go see a guy who owns a bar locally, and we used to follow him around when I had my agency, and we did all tours, blah blah blah. Because I was working remote then, and so I would just like hop in a car and go, yeah, we're gonna go to Winston-Salem. Sounds good to me. Let's go. And I would just like load the car up and go, and then do that there. And long story behind this, I saw the Coffin Cats like 6 months ago. It was like in February. Where are we? Yeah, it was like in February. They were in Providence, Rhode Island. They came. He opened up for them because he was a local guy, and they are still rocking it. Like
they do not. They don't miss a beat.
They are still rocking now. Actually, it was a company. It was a band called Sasquatch and Sickabillies.
That's right,
dude. Sasquatch and Sickabillies is like, when people say like, what type of music do you listen to? I was like, dude, this guy Dave owns a bar here in the next town that I live in, and like, I'm like, this guy should be like sold, and he shreds on the guitar, stand up bass. At the time was chick drummer, all the recipes for success, crazy cool stuff. They opened up for the Coffin Cats, and the Coffin Cats opened up for Reverend Horton Heat. Now, Reverend Horton Heat, what I've noticed, just like, honestly, I'm switching gears here, but I'm making a point for you Stogie Geeks listeners, right? I'm making a point. Like, the Reverend Horton Heat and when I saw like the Gin Blossoms, same music, same tone. Just, you know how you have a metronome when you play, right? The beat timer, it's just slowed down. Coffin Cats, they're right there at $1.20, still playing. And by the way, that's beat per minute that you follow. Okay, cool.
I got you, bro.
So I'll make sure, right? So if you're listening at home, right? So like, I'm like, these guys are freaking shredding. The guy comes up, he's playing the bass, going all about. Dude, it was freaking awesome. It was so cool. It was so cool.
I saw him this summer in the Philly area at a bar in Delaware. Hung out with those guys, Vic, Tommy, and Eric, and they're all Detroit boys. And they, in the most recent years, they all kind of grew up. Either have wives or kids or whatever, and have other careers they need to do to maintain, where they used to do Coffin Cats more full time. I actually write a chapter about Coffin Cats in the book, in Failure Rules.
Awesome.
Around the theme of burning the candle at both ends, which is a nod to some lyrics from one of their songs. But yeah, man, and they are top notch, top of their game. They're all sober now. None of them drink anymore. Where before, they had the song, Boozing Across the Nation. I mean, they are known as the boozy band. I mean, that was like half the songs about booze. But now they're like all sober, so they haven't lost.
Now they're older Budweiser.
And then 10 years from now, they'll be on Broadway, just like Green Day did, right? And then all the fans hate it. It's like all the fans hate it. But it relates to the cigar industry, right? Drew Estate started, they drew estates and they had their culture and they did their thing. And then, oh my God, they sold to Swisher Sweets and they became part of the man, and people get all crazy and stuff like that. It's like, dude, it shows a progress and change. And there's a point in your book where, and correct me, I know you're going to, where like, you have like thing one and thing two, right? So I'm a firm believer. I've always told people, like, when I describe myself, my career, or my thought process, I describe it as a parallel road, right? And on this side, you can have your fun and do your thing and do your things in there, but this side is the way that society wants you to behave within the position that you're in, right? And like I tell people personally in my life, I have a little brother who's 10 years younger. Obviously wives, kids when they get older. Like, it's okay to have fun, like running across the street and being with both sides. Like, you know what I mean? And so when you started talking about in your book the concept of thing 1 and thing 2 of where you have to go through, and then you started talking about another gentleman, his name escapes me, where he has like a third door, like getting in the third door, and I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, this is freaking like it's like you almost like the Matrix, like you got into my brain and like started putting things in it, and I'm like, yeah, right, okay, so this is super cool because now I'm totally like understanding the book and can't wait to finish it, you know what I mean, and to complete it. But it's like it's totally crazy how you have those concepts, but yet for decades I've talked about that parallel line. Speaking of parallel lines, let's pivot. This is Stogie Geeks. Let's pivot to some of your cigar stories and how they relate to some of the stuff that are in your book, so we can get on that topic. And again, if we need to toggle back and forth, my ADD would certainly appreciate it if we toggle between the two. I don't know about the other
I almost
hosts.
lost my coffee on that one,
right?
buddy.
But you know what I mean? But yeah, so absolutely. So you spoke in your book about Rick Rodriguez.
That's right.
Right? Super cool.
Go ahead. I met Rick through my friend Rami Dacko, who's a rep for General Cigars. So Rami does a lot of events with Rick. Obviously, because Rick's personality, or for CAO, or was before he started West Tampa Tobacco Company. Mm-hmm. And so I met him through Rami, and Rami's like, dude, you got to hear this guy's story. He's got a killer backstory. And I started talking to Rick about it. We sat down and had a cigar one day, and Rick just started telling me his story. And I took notes because I'm a writer.
Yep.
And so when I started doing the book, I said, hey, Rick, I wrote a chapter where I go through your story, and I emailed it to him and said, are you okay with this being published? He's like, bro, it's great. Don't change one word. And so essentially he talks about the backstory of how he became a master blender. And even before that, how he kind of ran away in his youth, was semi-raised by his girlfriend who even taught him to shave, didn't really have a father figure, was kind of wandering from career to career to job, but ended up like always had this like sense that tobacco or cigars was going to kind of be his home, be part of his North Star calling journey. Which eventually happened as he got his job at CAO, and then he met Benji Menendez, and Benji was kind of in the evening of his career. He needed a successor, and Ricky fit the bill, and he just started really just pouring in to Ricky all his knowledge for blending, and really kind of groomed Ricky for the role he ended up fulfilling, which really ended up being kind of, it was twofold for Ricky. It was this career fulfillment and finding his calling, but it was also in Benji, he found the father figure that he kind of always needed in that direction and that mentor. And it was all from this kind of old failure space where there's even stories of Ricky where he was like caught up with some bad associates and was babysitting some cocaine and accidentally shot a friend in the ear, had a Dick Cheney moment, like all kinds of crazy stuff that I talk about in the book. And then you talk about this thing 1, thing 2, which for your listeners and your viewers, thing 1 is your enabler pursuit, which often could be a low meaning pursuit that kind of has scaffolding and guardrails, and it's kind of like the undergirding that allows you to more freely chase risky, adventurous pursuits that might be more aligned with your thing 2 North Star pursuit, the thing that you feel like you're really made to do, your highest manifestation of your usefulness in the world. And so for Ricky, that thing 2, I think, is now manifesting as he's progressed from being the master blender for CAO to now starting West Tampa Tobacco Company. And you're really seeing just in year 1, he's truly blossoming. He's outperforming, I think, even his early expectations for that company. And it's just wild and awesome to see him go through that journey. But I definitely talk about his origin story in the book and how his early failures kind of sought him to have that introspection. And then he kind of got connected with Benji Menendez, and that really kind of spark things for him.
Yeah, and they were, and it's not like he like rocked an okay brand. Like CAO was like the bomb. They were and then they came up with different concepts. You cannot go through probably a handful. When I say a handful, in the last 5 episodes of Stogie Geeks, maybe every 5 episodes, maybe every 3 episodes, CAO is mentioned for sure, right? For reference points, this tastes like a CAO X or whatever, something or other or whatever, right? So he's created staples within the industry. He's focused on pivoting during a time post-boom, right? Some say like the cigar boom is coming back again here. Full disclosure, I owned a cigar shop during the cigar boom here in Providence, Rhode Island, right? It was called Spotted Dog Cigar Company. It was super cool. It was great. It's not post boom. It's a new evolution of boom, and I think that this is where this is where I think society, everybody's looking for like the way things used to be, right? Oh, 10 years ago things used to be this, or 10 years ago business used to be like this, or 10 years ago music used to be, fill in the blank. But it's like, dude, that was a moment in time. That's why it tells you, that's why any book you read, any self-help book you read or whatever, is living the freaking goddamn moment. Like, live in the moment, because today is today, and whatever happens to you today is going to affect you tomorrow. You know what I mean? And if you could spend a couple minutes, and then we'll pivot on some other cigar topics. I'm keeping an eye on the time here. So how does that relate, without giving away the secret sauce of the whole book? How does that relate to some of the lessons on the book?
Yeah, so you're talking about having a portfolio pursuits mentality, which means that, you know, you have more of a composite of pursuits that on the aggregate give you 100% fulfillment and 100% meet your financial needs. But each pursuit within your you know, composite or your portfolio might hit different percentages of fulfillment for you, or different percentages of meeting your financial needs, right? And you adjust over time. So I write about that concept, the portfolio pursuits. I talk about that with Gene Simmons from KISS. His quote about it's better to be an octopus than to be a fish, because you know, fish die easy, and octopus have many tentacles. You get one sliced off, you still have 7 more to swim with.
That's true.
You know, and within that, it's like it's always like, for me, I always have to keep my eye on what's the adjacent possible. Yeah, this might work right now, but what am I doing right now that might be able to morph into something different but related that's right next to it that I need to see? So, you know, I put out a book. What else can I do with the message in the book? I could do a podcast. I could do a merch company. I can do some speaking. So what are the adjacent possibles that spring off of that, right? Or how can I intersect, you know, strange things like, you know, my banking and financing career with punk rock, with self-help, with spy novels, and put that all into some bucket that somehow is cohesive? Well, that was Failure Rules. I'm intersecting all these disparate interests, and somehow it's packaged into a book full of lessons, right? So it's seeing the world as a big place, as an ever-evolving place, and never being stuck on, I am this, I am an electrician, or I am InfoSec guy, or I am whatever it is. Like, don't over-identify with your occupation. Identify with it, leverage it, but always look for new things to kind of add into your ever-evolving authentic self.
I'll be honest with you, like, Andrew, reading your shit puts my brain on fire, right? and the reason being is because, like, on my resume right now, I'm unemployed, right? But you know, I'm unemployed because I went to a cybersecurity company and they decided to outsource, and they laid off 66 of us. Adios. Okay, great. But like, in my real life, okay, I'm an entrepreneur in residence for WilkiePipeTobacco.com, which means I do all of his web development, all of his marketing, and if God forbid something happens to him, everyone else is gonna give his wife a quiche. I'm the one banging on his door saying, "What the hell do you want to do with this business?" Right? So I'm that, right? I'm doing other side work, getting things done. I got radio and television calling me and saying, come back. And I'm like, nah, I'm in the podcast gig now. Like, you know, ayo man, peace. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why am I going to freaking spend $2,500 a week for airtime when I can spend $69 a year for podcast time, and I'll just do my own shit? You know what I mean? And by the way, I'll sell my own stuff because I went to the best sales school in the world at the time, being with corporate Xerox back in the late 90s, which was a Fortune 50 company. I left when the stock was $88. Everybody thought I was crazy. And then 4 weeks later, it went down to $7. You know what I mean? And they all got laid off anyway. So, you know, so it's like I've jumped back into that. And then I remember owning my own agency with 6 employees, hanging out, watching Coffin Cats in Winston-Salem at Heavy Rebel Weekender, which was 70 bands in 3 days. And on the menu, you say, I want water, pretty simple. I want shot, Jaeger, or I want drink, Pabst. And it was freaking awesome. And it was mud wrestling and 50s cars. And I was like trying not to buy freaking classic cars. You know what I mean? Girlfriend at the time was like, dude, you're freaking crazy. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, you know, I got this American Express. I can buy this car. You know what I mean? So, you know, as long as we don't blow coke, we're good. Like, you know what I mean? And she's like, you need to calm down and do your thing. So there you go. But again, like, you know, long story painless, partner had a nervous breakdown. It failed. Right. So it's like, okay. And then it led to my radio gig. But it's like people don't understand, like, through your failures, like, I've learned what it's like to deal with stuff like that. You know, talk to us about some of the lessons that are in your book through failures. Because I'm sure there's, you know, every single person who listens to Stogie Geeks or follows the leaf or love of the leaf, brother of the leaf, sister of the leaf, grandmother of the leaf, whatever you want to say, right? They all have that entrepreneurial moment like, wow, I really want to create my own blend. I really want to own my own cigar shop. Well, then freaking do it. Like, go out there and do it and go for it, because competition is great. It brings more awareness to the actual industry, and then you can focus on what you don't like about other businesses and create a business that you think that would work.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think it all ties to, like, what is failure rule number one, which is failure purifies.
It does.
Right? Which is, you find yourself in that empty space of failure. Don't view it as a failure. Don't attach your identity to the failure event. It's just an event. It's not who you are. But look at it as an opportunity to leverage that chaos as an idea engine, because, you know, the phoenix must burn to emerge. You know, I talk about this in the sense that, you know, if you're properly metabolizing failure and you're invoking failure rule number one, failure purifies, it's more like when Nassim Taleb, the author of Anti-Fragile, talked about, where you not only just get up from your failure because you're resilient, but you get up stronger. You actually gain from harm, like a hydra.
Yep.
And so it's like in those spaces, it's a mentality. You have to kind of premeditatively set your mind to know how you're going to react to those spaces. So an example from my own life, you know, I was going through kind of these twin failures of a business divorce and a marital divorce. It left me kind of all of a sudden with no office to go to by day and no home to go to by night. I was living out of a hotel room, and in that failure space, instead of sulking and you know, becoming an alcoholic, even though I did drink lots of alcohol because I love bourbon. But you know, what I did is I leveraged that space to come up with ideas, and lots of fruit was born out of that. So I ended up starting a consulting business in the online lending space, which evolved into a proper partnership for a lead generation company, which was lucrative. That ended up being on parity with my income for a job in the fintech space as a banker, which was very much a difficult and cool transition, because I went from essentially being in the online lending world, aka payday lending, to being a corporate banker, which is akin to being a porn star and getting a regular acting job. So that happened. I also resurrected the record labels, released a bunch of new records. I also finished my first spy novel and began writing Failure Rules. So like 5 awesome things happened, that bore fruit over various timelines within that empty space. And it would not have happened if I didn't have that empty space of solitude and of sorrow to then leverage into, you know, future success and trajectory.
Yeah, see, that's the point I'm in now. Like, I'm like, okay, great. Yeah, it wasn't a failure. Freaking, I rocked my quota. I did my thing. You know what I mean? And it was a decision that was out of my hands. However, I'm like, wow, I have all these other avenues that I could really put my time and effort to that can become passive income and then move forward from there. This is why, like, my brain's on fire, right? Because I'm like, wow, you could go out there and then actually do that actual stuff, and it's okay to be out there. You also talked about I think he's one of the owners of Dissident Cigars, and we talk about them a little bit here on the show. First of all, the product is fantastic, right? Product is fantastic. The concept, I mean, dare I say, for the industry, the way that people want it's rogue, right? But not for nothing. Yeah, it's rogue, right? It's rogue, right? But it's like,
it's punk rock.
Like it's like punk rock cigars. Like, not for nothing. Not for nothing. Well, one of the fascinations that drew me to like a Drew estate, I wouldn't say like punk rock, right? But you can put it in another musical genre. But it's like, wow, like these guys they're disruptors at the time. And I tell companies that disrupting an industry is the beginning of category creation. Okay,
that's right.
And right now we live in a world, because everything happens so fast because of the internet and because of people getting data faster. Like, you need to be a disruptor in order to gather market share. Like, you need to be a disruptor. And the funny thing is, corporate world sometimes like, I don't know about that. Talk to us about some of the dissonant cigar stories to back up my point, please.
Yeah, so real quick on your point there, being a disruptor, reminds me of this book called Only is Better Than Best, written by Srinivas Rao, who's a great writer. And it's that concept that it's better to be only than to be the best of what already exists. He's actually now working with me and kind of coaching me through my book launch and helping me with, navigating book promotion. But to your point on Joshua Coburn, so I came across him just online somewhere and got into his story and his books and his videos. He talks about a moment in his life. This is pre-cigar world for him, where he was living in Iowa, rural Iowa in the 90s. He was a tattooed kid in Pierce, which was not really accepted at all back then like it is now, particularly in the Midwest. And, he was really ostracized for that, to a degree. And he had a suicidal moment where he needed milk in the morning, and he couldn't bear the thought of going to the store and getting, burning stares at him again, for just being who he was. And he kind of broke down and started writing a suicide note, was going to kill himself. And kind of in that moment, at one point, he asked himself a game-changing question. He said, if I can take responsibility for ending my life, why the fuck can't I take responsibility for living my life?
Bingo.
Pivoted and stopped being a victim. And from there, he ended up living out his calling journey. And still lots of ups and downs, but wrote books, traveled. And I just had a FaceTime call with him a couple weeks ago. We were chatting about a bunch of stuff. And he told me the story about how he moved to Nicaragua with his family, with Sin and the kids, with just, they sold all the shit, just had backpacks or whatever. That was their life there before they even knew they were going to be in the cigar business. He does social media for a living, and it does social media for cigar companies. Pretty much ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms are his clients. And he moves to Nicaragua just because he had a hunch that's where he needed to be, and he wanted to kind of get that experience with his family. And they moved there, and then this opportunity came up to buy Dissident as a brand, recreate it, reemerge it. And lo and behold, he's already in Nicaragua, so he's close to the factory, and everything just kind of fell in place. So it's like another one of those, like, he's in this pivotal moment where they don't know what they're going to do, where they're going to live, and bam, he ends up right in the spot where he needed to be for his next best step, for his next piece of his calling journey. And now look at the result. He's kind of an embodiment, similarly to what I'm doing with Failure Rules, of the intersection of entrepreneurialism, punk rock, motivation and inspiration, and cigar culture, which is right into my book. So having him do a blurb on the back of my book was like perfect, and injecting his story into it was perfect. And him and I are talking about potentially doing some other collabs in the future.
That's super cool.
Yeah,
That's super cool.
It's such a huge thing for people, to realize that disruption is opportunity. You hit on something that is very personal to me, and it's the mental health side, right? I mean, a lot of times folks will get into these disruptive moments in their lives, and you start getting that, I call it the confidence crisis, and then you start really honing in on what's wrong with yourself, right? Unfortunately, I'm a suicide survivor, right? I mean, as a 12-year-old kid, my mom committed suicide, right? And I'm a surviving factor of that. And I had a choice in life, for a little while. It really brought me down, And I had a choice in life, and I said, you want to know what? I can either let this be my anchor, or I can let this be a catalyst in my life to not go down that path, not let mental health be an anchor to me. One of the smartest things that I ever did in life was, I said, if I really want to challenge myself and I want to know that I'm stable as a person, I joined the Marine Corps, right? At 18 years old, I joined the United States Marine Corps. I said, I'm going to join the toughest branch in the service. I'm going to test my mental fortitude, and I'm going after it, right? Yeah. From that point on, mental health has always been something that I want to focus on with people. I want to focus on, as a leader, helping folks who are going through the confidence crisis or mental health crisis or those struggles, because it's easy to go down that rabbit hole. Talk to me a little bit about that mental roller coaster that you probably went through, just like a lot of us go through when we have challenges in life. And what helped you get through that? What helped you actually break that barrier and say, you know what? Fuck the shit that happened in the past. Fuck all the struggles that came my way. I got this, and I'm going to own this, and I'm going to push through this, and I'm going to be better because of it.
Yeah. So for me, it was a couple of things. I mean, what you're talking about here is something I just call failure esteem, which attaches itself to failure rule number 5, which is you are not your failures, which essentially means detach from the optics of failure, realize that the events in your life that are failures or appear like failures to others, they're just events, and they are subject to perception. And you get to choose your fucking perception on that event. And you get to choose whether you align who you are with that or not, or use it. It's just an event. And so it's really making your attachments internal, making your identity separate from some of the things that happen in your life or even some of the things you have done, leaving them as moments in time. And for me, it's not to get too woo-woo here, but it comes back to spiritual stuff. So I write about the Maharal of Prague, the Jewish mystic in the book, and his idea of letting the physical or the spiritual leave the physical so that you're not attached to the physical too much. Doesn't mean that you don't want to maximize the external world, have wealth, use it, make impact in the world through your resources, but always making the core kind of your spiritual self, which means your identity is never attached to a pursuit, isn't attached to events. It's attached to kind of what you already know is your highest attributes, your kindness, your intellect, your whatever it might be that kind of defines the highest self within you. And for me, it's going back to that, and this aligns with Buddhism, with non-attachment principles, even Christianity, with the idea of Apostle Paul talking about, being content in all circumstances, whether you're in jail, you're free, whether you're rich or whether you're poor. And for me, it was really that core coupled with my long-standing affinity for the strength of hardcore punk lyrics, like songs by Hatebreed, The Divinity of Purpose. And, he talks about Jimmy Josta and those lyrics of having your feet on the edge and then hearing that divinity of purpose and pulling back and finding that purpose to move forward. And it was like that song really was what kind of like gave me strength when I was living in the hotel and emerged out of failure with 5 new ideas that bore fruit over time. So for me, it's really kind of goes back to just, a delineation between the physical world and the spiritual world and letting the spiritual drive the physical as much as possible.
It's absolutely amazing how much music plays a role in our lives as well.
For sure.
I mean, going through that hard part of being, a semi-teenager, almost a teenager, having something crazy like that happen to me, and taking solace in the group of friends that I had. We were skateboarders. We listened to music. That music motivated us, got us going. Of course, we went out there and caused a little havoc as kids, but what kids don't, you know what I mean? Who get in trouble. But, I'll say that music was a big part of getting me through that struggle in my life, and music's a big part of getting me through any struggle in my life.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's somewhere you can go back to and just kind of zen out and get you out of that bad
Music
mood.
is always the thing that helps you walk through hell to the other side.
It's amazing how it can always come back to that.
Absolutely. Andrew, can we do a part 2 at some point and put it on the calendar?
100%. I feel bad that I got a bolt here.
No. It's all good. It's all good. For you Stogie Geeks listeners, we're going to wrap up Andrew, but we are continuing the show for 1 more hour, so please stick around for sure. But check out Andrew's book. It is called Failure Rules, 5 Rules for Failure for Entrepreneurs, Creatives, and Authentics. You can go to andrewthorpking.com. Andrew, I will communicate with you probably sometime tomorrow. I'll text you and do all of that, and we'll get another date on the calendar to do part 2 of this interview for sure. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks, man. See you guys.
Great to meet you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
You take care. For you Stogie Geeks listeners, we are going to pivot to reviews, commentary, and I'm sure we're going to have some reflective stories on what we just had for the past hour. That was pretty refreshing.
That was an awesome interview, brother.
Dude,
Good job.
That's
Good
one
job
of the best
lining that up.
interviews since I've come along.
Well, sometimes doing an interview.
Not that I'm taking credit, because I didn't do much.
No, absolutely. But Bill, you have a shout out you want to give to.
I do. Cybersecurity Summit, very popular event, long-term event, newest member of the Cyber Risk Alliance family, held their Boston event last Thursday. I had the pleasure of going, and I found along the way as I met everyone and went through the day that they're one of us, because at the end of the event, they're passing out cigars, Cohibas specifically.
Sure.
And so, Bradford Rand, welcome, and thank you for the cigar last week.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
get him on the show. If he wants to
I
do
almost
an
went.
interview.
I
I
should
just had
have
it this
gone. Now
morning.
I
wish I
regret.
got, you know,
regret not going.
I really wish I got the invitation. You know, but anyway, you know,
No, I almost went, and I've been to those summits before. I've been to them in the past. They're awesome events. You know, and being able to bring this part of our life into it too. Hopefully it happens again, right? Hopefully the next Cyber Summit in Boston has cigars there. I'll definitely make sure that I'm going to be there.
yeah, man. And if you can get me on the guest list, Bill, work your magic.
Yeah,
Their security content was fantastic, by the way.
that's awesome.
Oh yeah, I'd be interested.
very cool.
I'll wear a suit.
I've
if I
been
need
to I've been to a lot of security conferences where, you know, after a certain point in the day, I just lose interest in sessions
Yeah,
because, you know, your brain turns to mush.
sure.
And I'm mostly there for the networking, but their curriculum just kept me there
That's awesome.
for the, you know, for the whole course. So
That's cool. And if you want to get him on the show to interview, because believe it or not, I mean, you know, creator and founder of Stogie Geeks, Paul Azzadorian, amazing, as we all know, which is why we all have different attachments to him at different points in our career. It's amazing how he saw the vision, how the cybersecurity field in the cigar world are like thing one and thing two.
In the podcast world, I mean,
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
At the end of the day, I mean, he was light years ahead of everybody.
Yeah, people ask me like, you know, what's it like? I remember when back in the early days of Security Weekly, Paul interviewed a gentleman who graduated with us in high school called Alan White. Right, I forgot what show he was on or whatever, but it's probably Paul Security Weekly. It was one of the early years. So if I'm gambling, that's a pretty good guess, right? but he's like, oh my, like when I posted on LinkedIn that I work for Security Weekly, you know, when it tells you your jobs.
Yeah.
Dude, he PM'd me like, oh my God, like, what's it like to work with Paul? He is awesome,
That's cool.
this and that. And I'm like, well, personally, Paul and I talk about cigars. Like, you know what I mean? You know,
It's what brought you together, man.
We
That's
talk
cool.
about sales and sales, and because at the time I reported to him for sales, obviously, and all of that stuff, you know, in the glory days.
I remember
until
when
we
it
became
was-
corporate like Drew Estate.
I remember when it was just Paul and a laptop.
Yeah. And Larry's been there since the start, and it's just a crazy journey for him to actually see that, which is why we're all sitting at this table.
Oh, 100%.
Today. Like, it's,
I started with an interview 4 years ago. Like literally, I came on Business Security Weekly. They interviewed me as a CISO. And then coming out of that interview, Paul and I met next door at the Cigar Lounge.
Sure, yeah.
Grabbed a drink and cigar, and you know, we had conversations around, hey, dude, why don't you become a co-host? And then all of a sudden it's around, all right, well, why don't you join Stogie Geeks at some point, right? So now it's like, hell yeah, all right, let's do this, right? So it's like, it's that diversity in what you do that brings to the table, just like what we talked about in that segment, right? I mean, it's about diversifying what you do, and you can always pivot if something happens. So it's great.
I remember when I first met Paul, I tell the story frequently, probably not when Paul's here, but I met him at a Jose Blanco event. And I still have notes about the Jose Blanco event.
I'm sure you do.
Right. And it was a blending seminar, and it was funny because he's like, hi, I'm Paul Azzadorian. I'm like, I know who you are. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, hi, I'm Joel Zepper. I have a cigar radio. He's like, I know who you are.
Yeah.
He's like, we should talk about Stogie Geeks. And I was like, okay. So I go out and talk about Stogie Geeks. Like, yeah, you should come on the show. And I thought he wanted an interview.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But then he's like, no, I want you to you be a host. I'm like, are you serious? Like, you know what I mean? And then it just stemmed from there.
That's cool.
Then I checked in and did my thing for about a year, and then I was like, what's this whole Security Weekly thing you're doing? And then it opened up my eyes to like a fascinating world.
Oh God, yeah.
You know, of cybersecurity and where you guys hang.
Yep.
Every day.
Yep.
And now I'm clawing, scratching to get back in.
It's all good, man. You will. And you'll be successful at it. You know, it shows you how important having a network is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We always talk about build the network, you know, in the professional world. Make sure you build your network. Make sure you're keeping in touch with your network. That network is going to be your trampoline to your next phase of your career. It honestly will. And you know, this network for me has been worth everything in the world. You know, it's taken me to places that I never imagined, contacts that I never imagined, friends that I would never imagine. scenarios like this where, we sit here and we have wonderful conversation. We get to get in front of so many people who are like-minded and just built incredible friendships, incredible network, and incredible amount of colleagues as well.
Plus, it's super cool from your perspective, and not to put words in your mouth, but you get a chance to meet other business, secure, C-suite professionals 100%. On your show.
Yep.
If you go to securityweekly.com, look up Business Security Weekly. You can chill with Jason if you want to.
Yep.
Join our Discord channel. You can chill with Jason. If you want to talk to me, you can hop on the Stogie Geek section. But other than that, it's and you get to meet him at an escalated process.
Oh, big time.
Which is so cool.
And we get to know each other. I know it's only like a half an hour for an interview, but I'll tell you that 80 to 90% of those interviews, we end up connecting on LinkedIn after.
For sure.
And then having some level of a relationship that moves forward from there. So it's absolutely incredible. I love it. I love it. It's a beautiful thing.
Full disclosure, I didn't look at any of your articles yet.
It's all good.
For organizational prep.
Yeah, no worries,
for
man.
show. So why don't you start?
We can rip into this.
We can pivot into some stories. And then I do want to take some time out to give our 3 reflections on Andrew.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the book, I can send you some video. Actually, what I'll do, if you go to securityweekly.com, log on to our Discord server, I will post his YouTube snippets. It's got 3 videos. One's 2 of them are 6 minutes. The other one's 9 minutes. Gives you snippets of the book. There, which kind of like it's a teaser. It's a giant teaser for the book. But he does get into some of the content that we spoke about Rick Rodriguez, the owner of Dissident Cigars. But he's also got some other business kind of tidbits in there too. Yep. So I'll post those on the Discord for you Stogie Geeks listeners that are listening to. For you Stogie Geeks listeners that are not on Discord, you can email me at joe@stogiegeeks.com and I will send you the 3 individual links as well as a link to Andrew's.
Oh yeah, I mean this is a perfect example. I mean, when I leave here, I'm going to connect with him on LinkedIn and I'm going to buy his book, and just help get that relationship going. No doubt about it.
He's
awesome.
You could literally do. I mean, I've had the opportunity to peruse the book from the publisher's version, PDF, and then chapters. You know how they give you an intro thing. Whatever they're trying to sell the book to. Whoever.
Teasers.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you and whatnot. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, it's awesome.
It's and what I like about that is you can take notes for yourself. And see how some of the stories relate to you, but more importantly, the reader can realize that he or she is not alone.
That's right, 100%.
With whatever their journey is.
Yep, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean we've had a lot of cool interviews that we want to flip to second interviews, right? I mean, Brian from Pravada is another one. That's I mean, so much has happened since we've interviewed him in that world, right? And then digging more into it with Andrew. I mean, it's awesome to be able to see these other people's experiences in their world and where they're going to and what future brings for them. So I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So I've flipped to an Espinosa, by the way. I finished my Rojas. It was great.
What do you think? Yeah, what do you think about the Rojas?
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it. I think for me, I like Barbacoa a little bit better. It's got a little bit more of that spice to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But this is, the Carnitas would be one of those morning cigars, I think, for me.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, Rojas did it the opposite, right? He came out with the blue bonnet, and then the statement, and then street tacos, and then had some other blend, other known, I don't say no name, but unbanded blends of his to get going.
Yep.
And then he had a pivotal business moment. I need a Connecticut.
Yep.
I need an entry level cigar.
Yep.
So and I think my description was exactly if you're used to his stuff and you backpedal, you're kind of But if you're new to Rojas and you try a Carnitas and you progress that way, which again, relating to Andy's book, that's thing 1, thing 2, right? You gotta you can go on both sides, but it's about capturing more market share for sure.
Right.
Let's talk about some articles.
Yeah, sure. So I started off with Big Smoke. It's something that happened recently. It was on Veterans Day, and the next day, I believe, it was November 11th and 12th. And just kind of talking through. I mean, they had 3,000 folks out there in Vegas going at it and really enjoying the cigar world. So I put an article in there that kind of went through all of the aspects of what happened over the weekend. One of the things that I actually pulled out of the article that I thought was really, really interesting is they interviewed some folks who flew all the way in from Montreal to attend Big Smoke, and it just shows you how much regulation is starting to take over. One of the comments, and the guy's name is Dennis Thomas, he said, "Listen, in Montreal right now, there's only 2 places left in the entire city where you can smoke cigars." A city like Montreal.
Yeah, it's like Massachusetts.
That's
It's like Boston.
crazy.
It's like Massachusetts.
There's only 2 places in Montreal that they can sit down and have a cigar.
Yep.
And, him and his buddy looked forward to traveling to Vegas just so they could, go there and have the experience that they yearn for, all year long, because there's not many places to go and chill and just have a good experience with the cigar. So I thought it was absolutely amazing that that regulation is coming down so hard in a city like Montreal. So, it's my hope is that it's not something that that starts snowballing, because we experience up in Massachusetts. Luckily, Rhode Island, we're not in that situation. But God bless those folks in Montreal that can only go to 2 spots. Go to those 2 spots all the time. Then,
Yeah, right. I mean, honestly, I love dialogue like this, where like I go into a blind. Like this is where like so I put my computer off until I say my final goodbyes, and do my thank yous.
Yeah.
But the way that it's going to work into the future, and this is why I love the access of a podcast, because I can be documented on this. Same thing with my radio show. Like I remember being on the radio with Mike Bellady of MLB Cigar Ventures back in 2014, and my quote was, with this whole taxation and PCA thing and where it's going, I go, it'll be 2020 before we even know what direction we're remotely going in.
Yeah.
And he was like, quote unquote, no, absolutely not. It's going to be done. And I was like, yeah, well, guess what? That's there.
Yep.
Having it here, so you're going to hear it here first. The methodology is they're going to tax them out, right? It started this election cycle in California.
Yep.
But California's all ripping and roaring about the flavored ban.
Yep.
But not for nothing. Happened to Massachusetts the last election.
Absolutely.
California's the land of political overreach.
Sure.
It is.
That's
Sure.
just another,
100%.
another example.
But let's backpedal here to Massachusetts. Like, you can't get a flavored cigar in a Massachusetts brick and mortar store.
Yeah, it's like part of the larger attack on flavored vapes.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
And whatever your opinion is there, just tax issues are one thing, but not giving people the choice to what they decide to.
Yeah. I mean, that lines up perfectly with another article that I put in there.
Well, before you get to that article, because I have one more thought in regards to that process, is 5 years from now, you will walk into a cigar shop as you know it today, that is a quote-unquote cigar bar, and you will not be able to walk into the humidor. You will be able, it will be like ordering food from a menu. And if you don't believe me, you do traveling too. There are some spots like that.
Already, absolutely. 100%.
Which honestly,
I was going to say, I've seen that already.
Well, we've seen it because of my traveling when I was with the Security Weekly crew.
Yep.
Where you walk into a place with California, Vegas, this, that, and the other thing, and you go down, right? And Vegas, not so much, but some other like side shop, like you go into, you have a menu.
Oh, it happened to me in Vegas the last time I was physically at Black Hat.
Okay.
There was a cigar bar up at Mandalay Bay. It was like a rooftop. I can never remember the name of it. But I wanted to order a cigar, and literally at the bar, they handed me a menu.
Yep.
Handed me a menu, and I had to go through the menu, and we all picked cigars, and
that's
we ordered it like drinks.
That's an interesting topic that I want you to put on our radar when we talk internally for 2023.
Yep.
Because I have mixed feelings about that. Because I don't think it's as negative as having experienced it.
Yep.
Now, I like the touchy-feel pot of going, like,
I do too.
It takes me 20 minutes to walk through a humidor that I've been in yesterday.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm going through my mental Rolodex, like, had it, hate it, like it, love it, kinda. I'm in the mood for that. Maybe not so much. Can't believe that's still priced at that. But you know,
it's like grocery shopping. You want to make sure that the avocados feel right.
So you're telling me you're a melon squeezer?
I want to squeeze the melon. I was thinking the same thing.
awesome.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
I do what I got to
That's so
do,
funny.
man.
Awesome.
I don't know. I'm torn on that as well. I almost didn't like the experience of being hands off.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And the problem that I had is that when I have questions, the waitress behind the bar had no fucking clue about anything.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that's the problem. Like
Yeah.
it could be a better experience if you're working with someone who knows their shit, knows what they're talking about, and if you haven't tried something, they can actually explain the flavor profile, or you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. How's the steak? Well, we're a seafood bar, sir.
yeah, right. I mean, so that's I mean, honestly, that totally killed the experience.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if it did ever go to something like that you got to have people know their shit.
This is where I come in, right? Where I'm like, on the positive sides, now marketing's going to change for the cigar industry.
Yeah.
Because you best be cascading those notes of
Yeah.
what the hell you're supposed to
Right.
taste.
Absolutely.
Because you can't see the wrapper. You
can't see
the
anything.
label.
Right.
You can't see anything.
Yeah,
You know
I
what
mean, and that's
So-
that's the only way I can see the experience working.
Yeah.
Is that when you have people who know their stuff and they can actually have a conversation with you, right?
Yeah.
And be able to teach you a little bit, you know. But we've talked about this before that, you know, in the cigar industry, the experience is changing, right? It's got to be a more interactive experience now. If you go to a brick and mortar, if you go to a shop, it has to be more experience, because all these online shops now, it's not just an online shop, it's an experience. They have YouTube videos, they go on YouTube Live, right?
Yeah.
They're doing Facebook Live, they're doing LinkedIn Live, you know, and there's just a lot of interaction and a lot of connection that they're building with the, you know, with the consumer. So you know, the brick and mortar has to keep up. You know, I hope that it doesn't come to a day where I can't walk into a humidor and peruse. You know, I like to do that, a little bit of shopping. It's part of the experience for me. So, but you're predicting it's gonna happen full bore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the legislation
Yeah.
has already been written, and it's been tested in markets just from my limited travel with Security Weekly.
Yeah.
I mean, where we've
Yep.
been, and I'm like, this is different, because you know, here in Rhode Island, like I said, we have a 50-cent cap tax. It's on the docket to be raised to 80 cents. Okay, no big deal. Whatever. Everything else is going up, so why the hell not this? Right? Cigar price is going up too,
Sure.
which we've discussed. But then you talk about consumer behavior, and then where it's going. It's like the customer service of the cigar bar. See, the cigar bar has been a metamorphosis of lack of tobacco knowledge from the employee perspective to consumer. So now
And a lot of consumers don't know the difference because
Sure. they want to smoke a cigar and hang out with their
They're
friends.
not- yeah.
They don't care. You know what I mean?
they don't have that savvy. It's
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's not enough of us that care versus what the market cap audience is dictating. And so it will go in that position with least resistance.
Does that push more people to the online experience?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know, price point, it depends on price point for sure.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But like, you know, are they going to have you know, plus, not for nothing, dare I say, taking it a step further, staying on this topic, what happens if you can't cut it? Because think about it. You walk into a place now that's BYOB,
Yep.
and they charge the $4 fee or $5 fee. It's probably 10 now.
Yeah.
Right? I don't eat out much at BYOBs now that we have little children. But anyway, right?
Right.
But before, like, they have to open it for you. That's the,
Right.
and you can't take it home.
Right.
Like, that's the quote unquote,
Yeah.
right? That's the rule, right? What happens if you cut it? I don't want some freaking chooch cutting my cigar.
Oh yeah, no, I feel you.
With a public cutter.
Right.
Like, I walk around, I have my cutter in my bag and my
absolutely.
lighter in my bag, and I do my thing, and there you go. So I don't know. It's gonna ruin our experience.
Yeah.
But to Bill's point, regular person just wants to have a cigar and wind after work and chill.
Right.
He or she
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah. No. And you know, I'm always afraid of, and we've talked about this every time we get into the legislation conversation, I'm always worried about that snowball effect, right?
Yeah.
And it's a slippery slope. Legislation, once enacted, is hard to reel back.
There are gateway drugs and there are gateway laws
Right? Absolutely. 100%,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
that
And-
lead
and-
to worse laws.
Yeah, and that article that I put in here about, you know, a cigar category braces against proposed flavor bans is basically, it starts with your convenience store, right?
Yep.
Where they're going to start banning flavored tobacco products in a convenience store. But I'm worried about that snowball effect starting to go down across everywhere, including the cigar bar. And you know, I read the article, and it said 11 states right now are already introducing these bills or have these bills. You have Colorado, Hawaii, Illinois, Indiana, Maine, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington. All have active bills right now, if not already have legislation, you know, to nix flavored tobacco. At what point, and we talk about this a lot, do you take the cigar industry and rip it out of that tobacco vertical?
This, you know, I've had the opportunity to sit on the Rhode Island legislative floor and listen to lobbyists from the convenience store industry.
Yeah.
So what I'm speaking with is, this is back in 2018. Okay. 74% of convenience store income is tobacco and lottery.
Yeah.
So they were mixed with us because on the table for cigars was premium cigars was going to go to from 50 to 80. They kicked the can down the road back in 2018, kicked the can back down the road back to 2020, 2022, here we go. They kicked the can down the road too, so now we got to wait 2 more years. Okay, fine. 74% is tobacco and lottery for convenience store. Okay, at the time, gas was priced appropriately. They were breaking even on gas, but tobacco in there. So they were approaching it from a cigarette perspective because they were going to go from, in Rhode Island, 425 to 450. They lost their battle. We won our battle. So statewide, they separated. What concerns me about organizations like the PCA, Cigar Rights America, is when you look at it from the national level, cigars needs to fight for its own category.
Yes.
Now, I have been saying this forever. I get hate email on this. I get hate Facebook posts from former Stogie Geeks hosts on this, where they say, I can't believe, like, you know, he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's like, no, I do know what I'm talking about. Like, you know, worked for a congressman. This is how it works, right? And once it goes, now, what the national level is doing now is they're forcing it back on the state. But you just mentioned a handful of states, and Rhode Island's on one of them on a chopping block. So, or on that list. And what's going to happen when they make it? And like Bill says, and like you've said numerous times since your tenure here on Stogie Geeks, once you put a law in place, it ain't going to reverse it.
No. And like, all they can do is use that as a catalyst to create more legislation.
For sure.
Because that's the ploy. When you're in politics, a lot of times you go after the path of least resistance first, knowing that your strategy over the course of the next 5-10 years is to add more and more and more regulation to that to get to your ultimate outcome. And that's the law of unintended consequences. It may feel good in the moment to most people to say, hey, listen, this law makes sense. This regulation makes sense. But what people aren't thinking about is what that's going to turn into 5-10 years from now, right?
And not to get all pseudo political, but let me know how I'm going to show you how this works to prove my point, right? If the premium cigar industry, the resistance I get back is, Joe, you better be careful because if they define their category, then they can be regulated quicker. Sure. However, you define a new category, which means that now you have an opportunity on said floor to express your concerns about whatever it is about said category and not get lumped in, like Bill said, with vapes and other OTB, other tobacco products. But here, what if it's a lumped in legislation? Well, what do you mean, Joe? Okay, great. Do you know part of the COVID bill under the Trump administration? This has nothing to do with cigars, but they had 6 months, I think it was 6 or 9, don't quote me, it's either 6 or 9 months, to produce and admit to alien UFOs. And they redefined them as UFOs, as USOs, okay? And they had to create a study. This is under the COVID bill. So again, it got lumped in under the COVID Act. So this is my point. What happens if all of these OTB, tobacco products, right, OTP, gets lumped into some other green?
Oh, it happens all the time.
Right.
It happens all the time.
If you don't define your own category, you can't state your case.
Yeah, right. No, 100%. I mean, You
Do you know about the aliens?
No, I don't know about the aliens.
I will send you a link. I was flabbergasted.
I think
And
that's
do you
why.
know?
Yeah.
Do you know? Ironically, I wish Andrew was still here because he actually talks about Travis Barker in his book, drummer for Blink 182,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And the drummer for Blink 182 hired an ex-Pentagon official to produce the report. Yeah, dude. I'm telling you. Are you shaking your head in wonderment or agreement?
Agreement.
Yes. So like I'm not talking shit.
Yeah,
Like I'm talking like I gotta give me a day or two because of my schedule and kids, but I could give you like legitimate article. So like the owner of Blink 180, the drummer of Blink 182 hired an ex-Pentagon official under the Trump administration to continue the UFO research to find out that because he's fascinated about that, which the government had to produce a report admitting to not call them UFOs as we know that. They call them USOs. Is that correct? Am I correct with that terminology? USOs?
You know, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, but I'm in the ballpark. I'm playing baseball. I might be playing second or shortstop. There might be a shift, but like I'm not too far off. And this is what scares me when you don't fight for your own category.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the point is that, you know, in the political world, they call that the pork that's inside of every bill, right?
Yeah.
And you'll hear people fight against a bill, and it's not necessarily for what's being promoted as the intent, the overarching intent of the bill. It's all the pork that's buried inside that bill, right? Mm-hmm. That has nothing to do with the original intent of the bill, but they're trying to slide things in, legislation in, right, as part of a bigger package. And you'll hear politicians getting cornered about it all the time and challenged about it all the time. And they'll say, listen, I am not against the intent, the original intent of this bill. What I'm against is the millions of dollars that got slid in for legislation that's part of this package of bills that I don't agree with. And I can't allow that to happen. That's why I'm against this bill, right? So you're absolutely right. You know, it can get lumped into another bill, and then all of a sudden premium cigars are part of that hatchet, right? I'm all about the scalpel. I'm not about the hatchet. So, you know, separating premium cigars from all the other tobacco products, I think is a benefit. And I think it's our ability to actually separate from the law of unintended consequences that could happen like that. Like
that should be their focus. Now, I've had a chance to speak to new board members of PCA, like I know personally within the industry.
Yeah.
And they're like, Joe, like, we no. And I'm like, you're done. Then you will ride the wave of whatever that you get lumped into, and good luck with that.
Yeah.
From my perspective, okay, what changes? I go online. Okay, great. You know what I mean? I'll rent a space and smoke in it and continue to work remotely no matter what the hell I do in life.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, I don't know how the hell we can turn a big smoke into such a freaking negative event. Do you have something positive?
Well, I mean, you know,
Do you have a positive story?
I do. I do have a feel-good story. Actually, it's another event. Which
For the Stogie Geeks listeners, like, yeah, fucking Joe's back. Like, freaking Joe's back.
It's another event. It's Big Smoke and Whiskey Fest are actually combining.
Smart idea.
I think that's awesome.
Brilliant
right?
idea.
So it's going to be in Hollywood, Florida on March 4th. It's a one-day event.
I love Hollywood, Florida.
And it's going to be a combination of the Whiskey Fest and Big Smoke together.
Where is that? Tell me it's at
Hollywood, Florida. It's going to be
What is that, like at Margaritaville in Hollywood? Or
it didn't say.
Oh, it didn't say yet?
No, it didn't say in the article what.
Have you ever been
what
to
the
Hollywood,
venue.
Florida?
I have.
I love Hollywood, Florida.
Yeah.
It's old school.
Yep.
Trying to develop economically.
Yes, totally.
But like if you're an old school, like 50s retro geek like I am, who loves that culture, like you're like, dude, this is the shit.
Yep.
And what's cool about it is you get like a lot of the Jersey transplants in there.
Sure.
So Hollywood, Florida is and it's funny because when I speak to natives, they're like, you're going to Hollywood for the day? Like it's like ghetto. But it's like, dude, because of where it is, adjacent to some other towns that are doing better, but it's like it's such an eclectic group.
Oh yeah,
it's
totally.
super cool.
So I mean, having an event like that, going into Hollywood, Florida, I think is just awesome. And honestly, I'm gonna look at my schedule and see if I can go, man. Like,
when is it? 2023, obviously.
It's in 2023, March of 2023. Yeah. So I thought it was just a cool event. Both passions of mine, right? Whiskey and cigars, and being able to go down there for a whole day and just kind of enjoy yourself and be part of the scene and see what's gonna get released. Then I think it's awesome. So.
Yeah, full disclosure, I'm a whiskey, cigar Bloody Mary or cigar red wine guy. I'm not into the Scotch.
Yeah, no, Scotch has to be like it's the right time for me. You know
Sure.
what I mean? I'm a bourbon guy,
Yep.
but you know, I
like the
I can do a
sweetness
Scotch.
that comes
I
a
can
little
do
bit more
Scotch.
from whiskeys and stuff like that. And
Yep.
you know, as you know, I moonlight at a cigar and whiskey bar over
Yep.
in Middletown, and you know, it's a good combination. You know, and you always have like, wow, like, because you can draw from two different audience and educate each other's audience, and also I think there are a lot of similarities between spirits.
Sure.
And you know, and
it's a craft.
cigars.
It's a craft, right?
Yep.
They're both crafts, and I enjoy them both. So, you know, it's beginning of March. I may fly down there and maybe experience it. So, if any Stogie Geeks listeners are going, let me know. I'll meet up with you there. I'm really thinking about going. So
That's
cool.
cool. That's a good idea. There's no date published yet. Just March.
No, there's a date. Hold on, let me grab it.
Stogie Geeks spring break.
Right, Saturday, March 4th.
March 4th.
So it's gonna be a Saturday. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Fly down on a Friday.
Yeah.
Fly home on a Sunday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not even have to miss work. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Hollywood's super cool.
So another one that I brought, and we're going into the holiday season. What do you want from your family when it has to do with cigar presents? Right. one of the articles I have is the best gifts you can buy for the cigar lover in your life.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I pulled a couple out of there. You know, there's a Como Lab walnut cigar ashtray that I thought was really cool. Not super expensive, $49, so not bad at all. It's beautiful.
It's a what?
Pure walnut ashtray.
Ashtray, okay.
Beautiful. It's gorgeous, right? $49, not bad at all. Then I pulled another one out there. It's a cigar lounge pattern dress sock. And they were $27. And I'm like, I am not paying $27 for a pair of socks. I don't care who you are.
I have cigar socks that
I do too.
given
They
to
weren't
me.
$27.
Yeah.
You think so?
No, I don't know, but they, you know, I know where they were bought, and I'm like, yeah, they went 27, but they were probably like 11 or something like that, and you know what I mean. You buy 3, and I have sushi ones on now from that batch that I got.
There you go.
I have sushi, tacos, and cigars socks that were given to me, you know, for Christmas gifts and whatnot. I think it's cool.
So what's on your Christmas list?
That's a good question. Why don't Bill go first? Because I usually give away more swag. Like I'm the type of person like I've gone to like cigar events and won like the Davidoff ashtray and stuff like that. And like I've given it to like, I'm like, hey, here you go. My friend's like, dude, are you serious? Yeah. Like, I'll keep it in my man cave when you come over. Yeah, sure, man, knock yourself out. Like that. Like stuff like that doesn't like excite me. You know what I mean? I've always wanted a soft flame ST DuPont lighter.
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. And full disclosure, hold on. Keep talking.
What do you want, Bill? What's on your Christmas list?
Hold on. No, I'm right there. Full disclosure, I bought this ST DuPont lighter, soft flame lighter.
Yep.
Worked for 2 weeks. Super cool.
Yep.
Right? Super cool. It's shiny. It does the ping.
Oh, look at
right?
you.
It's great. Smoked it for 2 weeks. Well, guess what? Now I need a freezer to put it in the freezer for a half hour before I load it. Then I need a color-coded adapter.
Oh, Jesus.
And then I got to get the wrong butane fuel. And this thing has cost me 17 hours of non-revenue generating activity. And feel this lighter. Like it's freaking, it's legit. It's heavy. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Right?
It is.
Right? Yeah.
But it's a pain in the balls to use.
It's a freaking Gino. Okay.
Is it?
Yeah.
Holy
That's
shit.
my employer doesn't love me, so I love myself lighter that I bought. Okay. Guess what? Do you know what I pulled out 2 weeks afterwards? Because I don't have the fuel, and the cost of fuel's on back order.
Yeah, sure.
I've took it to freaking places, this, that, and the other thing. Okay, great. I'm still using my freaking scratched up Calibre.
I find the little
So Christmas gifts right now, I'm a little weary of what the hell I want. You know what I mean? You know, because I have a man cave, I have a bar, and we have a bar in our living room. I have a single smoke cigars in the house, but it connects to an adjacent deck and whatnot, and you can enjoy it. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Like I don't really know what my wish list is for this year, because last year, if you asked me that question, that was that. Well, I accomplished that, and now that's a freaking pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Like I seriously have to freeze it in the freezer, relight
it's a
it.
paperweight
I'm
now.
waiting for the. Honestly, I've been traveling around because I've been to 3 different ST DuPont cigar shops.
Yep.
Though I find the clinking oddly relaxing.
Well,
it's not a fidget toy. It's a lighter.
so honestly,
that was always my problem growing up.
So what you're saying, Bill, is that's a
pyrotechnics.
$1,000 fidget toy.
this is freaking crazy. Like, and honestly, it's driving me batty.
I've always
and it's
been
so
a fan
funny.
of $1,000 fidget toys.
Now I'm up to a possible trip to Maine
Yep.
to get the color of the fuel I need because no one has it locally. And it's funny because when I call it, the woman on the phone is like, "Oh, Joseph, I'm so sorry that you're going through so like we can ship it to you, this and that." I'm like, no. This is a story. I will go to Maine. I will stop by and get some great craft beer on the way home.
Yeah.
And I want this freaking thing to work when I fill it up in your place.
Seriously.
And I really don't want to stick it in the freezer before I go to. So for you, for you SD DuPont fans out there for Stogie Geeks, you can email me at joe8@stogiegeeks.com. I need to get this thing working. It ain't the flint. It's got brand new flints in it because they have starter flints.
Gotcha.
Cute, right?
Oh, how nice.
Real cute, right? Starter flints. You open it up, it's got a place for the flint. Like, concept is great.
Yeah.
To be debonair. And I was like, dude, I mean, I think it would go great with my Coach bag. And and like I said, I used it for 2 weeks, and it's freaking completely useless.
And in the meantime, my $14.99 Amazon buy kicks ass and's been kicking ass for 3 years.
Right,
So
right. In the meantime, I was using my jet fuel, but then I'm like, oh no, I got this other Calibri thing, which Calibri's been sketchy from lighter perspective there too. But this is old. This is an old lighter.
Yep.
Of mine, like I dug this out and refurbished it
Yep.
just for the this.
Gotcha.
So I don't know what the hell I would ask for Christmas.
Well, I know I'm not going to ask for that for Christmas. That's for damn sure.
I would not.
That's for damn sure.
And you got to use separate fuel.
Yeah.
And like I said, freeze it.
I'm good.
And it's pretty crazy. I can't. I'm probably gonna bring this to next Stogie Geeks because I want to ask Paul Asadorian, like, is this really worth it? Like, seriously. Like,
It's too late now. You already bought it.
You know, part of me thought of like going to a bridge and like filming me throwing it over. And like, you know what I mean? Because you know.
How about we take it to an outdoor range and put a bullet through it?
That'd be super cool. that'd be super cool.
I'd be game.
So
I'll bring my AR. I'll let you put a 223 through it.
So at the moment, my Christmas present is I really don't know because all kidding aside, I really want a nice, elegant, soft flame lighter.
Yeah.
But I haven't found one yet.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I'm always happy to find a new torch in the stocking, a new clipper in the stocking, because they're like challenge coins. They're like they're like a bag of Doritos. You can't stop at just one.
Yeah. Have you ever used Fox Knives? Is a big knife company, right? They make some pretty nice knives, but they have a steel cigar cutter. And it looks like the shears, the ones that are like shears, but they're short.
Okay.
It looked really cool. It's $50. It's not bad at all, and it comes with the nice sheath and everything like that. I think I may want that too. That ashtray and the Fox Knives steel cigar cutter.
I went through, full disclosure, a cigar scissors phase where I would pull out my fancy cigar scissors. I love the cigar scissors.
It's kind of like that. I mean, they're set up like scissors, but they're short. They don't have like the end like a scissor.
Yeah, this had a thing. It peeled out and it came in.
Paul has one on his desk.
You know what
I've
I mean?
used it twice today.
And I kind of like the cigar. I like fancy knickknacks like that. You know what I mean? I like fancy knickknacks like that.
The only other thing, and now that I'm thinking about it, is the Bunsen burner lighter.
Oh, the Alec Bradley one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That may be another one that I want to get. But that's a fancy thing, too, to put in my man room right on the coffee table.
For the man who has almost everything.
Do you want? I can honestly, if you ping me for next Stogie Geeks and remind me, I'll give you mine.
No, you don't have to give me yours.
I have 3 in my garage.
Oh, do you really?
Like seriously. And then I'm gonna shut my mouth and wonder what your thoughts of that are.
Of actually using it?
Because I really, because this is the stuff I love to talk about. Stogie Geeks, like I'm into like practicality.
Sure.
Like
that's not practical at all.
No, it is for a man cave.
Yeah,
it is for a man cave. It's super cool. It's a Bunsen burner. It's super cool for a man cave. It's cool, but it's got some design flaws.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, I want you to find them out.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
But see,
that's cool.
Now you remember, because I remember when Alec Bradley put those out, they were every shop lighter. Because what happens is they have a shop lighter and people walk away with lighters by accident or whatever, right? And so you couldn't like quote unquote take it out of the shop and whatnot. it challenges itself in a shop lighter environment.
Does it?
Because you have 5, 6, 10 guys an hour.
Yeah, right.
Estimated,
Right.
pouring at it, lighting it,
Sure,
and clicking
sure.
it.
Beating the
That's
shit
like
out of it, yeah.
that's like the true test.
Yeah,
you know what I
gotcha,
mean. Man cave, it'll do the job.
All right,
just,
I'll ping you before next
just
Stogie
fine.
Geeks.
Yep, absolutely.
No doubt about
It's
it.
actually sitting on my bar.
Is it?
Yeah, it's sitting on my bar.
Beautiful. And another one that remember we talked about kind of the convergence between cybersecurity in the cigar world when La Flor Dominicana put out those NFTs. Remember they put out the NFTs to be able to get
Yep.
So the shop owners actually started to get them now. So they actually got the fruits of the NFT.
Okay.
And basically it gave them the ability to purchase 70 exclusive cigars, right? And it's the Andalusian Bull, limited. It's a limited edition. Now for them to be able to make their money back, they're starting to charge up to $200 a stick.
That's what we said. We said it here. Yeah, like you got like it's a business model.
$200 a stick.
And the funny thing is, honestly, they will get it.
I believe it. I believe it.
If they position themselves correctly,
Yep.
have the right target audience. See, this is where I think a lot of retail shops go wrong. They buy something crazy, and I think it's crazy because it's different. So I maybe crazy is not the right word. Let's use different. They buy something different, but they market to the same audience.
Yeah.
No, you bought something different. You got to use a different target audience to attract your stuff. That's why a lot of people like, oh, I've gone to this cigar shop. He doesn't really have anything. How did you do it? Hey man, he's selling boxes.
Right.
He's in the business of selling cigars.
Yep.
Does he sell cigars? Yeah. Okay. Well, what's the problem? Like, you know what I mean? He doesn't cater to your audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why I really call myself like a cigar gypsy, right? I have the opportunity to work remotely, and I go to different cigar shops a day and work for the day in there and do my thing and do that there. So it's like I'm a gypsy in the palace. You know what I mean? And then you can go there and then do that there. But different cigar shops offer different things. You just have to change your audience.
Yeah.
And then when I talk to cigar shop owners, like, yeah, dude, well, my audience doesn't really like X brand. I'm like, why'd you bring it in? Well, it was hot. But your audience like classic stuff. Or your audience likes boutiques.
Know your audience, right?
You got to know your audience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, if you remember, they did 7 winners for the auction, and basically it equated to like $614,000 for those 7 NFTs. Right? You get a custom humidor with it, so
great.
each shop gets a custom humidor.
You should get a free massage too.
Right? You can purchase. It allows you to purchase those 70 cigars.
Yeah.
But listen to this, right? Here's what the auction prices were. One was $98,000. One was $81,000. One was $92,000. There wasn't one less than $78,000.
Did they go?
They all went. All
Told
7.
you.
All 7 of them went.
There you go.
So now they're starting to receive the cigars, right? But they have to purchase them, and they're starting to sell them for about $200 a stick in some instances.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing.
Honestly, local story here, Regency. He does a Davidoff Oro event. You familiar with Davidoff Oro?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's $500 a stick.
Unreal.
And you know something? It sells out every year.
I bet.
It's a list.
Yep.
It's limited.
Yeah.
You prepay, and you go to the event, and now of course you get a dinner and big brew and whatnot. But again, it's he knows the audience.
Yeah.
We got to get Mike back on the show. And I did an interview when we were weekly. It was in May of 2021 that we did interview with him. We got to bring Mike back.
Yeah,
I
that'd
think
be awesome.
because he gets. And if you walk into his humidor, 50 facings tops.
Yeah.
And people are like, how can you rub 50 freaking good facings?
Yep. Right.
You want Davidoff? Every single, you got it.
Yeah. It's a good shop.
You want Crown Heads? You want freaking Avo? You want Tatuaje? You got it. What I like about his humidor is it's good and tasty.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Other humidors, some convenience factors, whatever. I don't really judge it so much on price because the cigars are generally the same when you travel from Rhode Island to Rhode Island. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But again, like you want boutique and latest thing, He's not into it.
Right.
It's not his audience.
Yeah. Right.
He gets the business model.
Right.
And he moves.
And he knows
about.
who's coming through his shop.
He knows
what he's going to get
through
for
a shop.
it. Yeah,
He
good
understands-
businessman.
He's a very good businessman.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to get him on. I
Okay,
mean, him
cool.
and I are connected on LinkedIn too, so I see a lot of his posts and you know, obviously on social media too. So yeah, I'd love to be able to get him in and chat with him.
Davidoff Oro event sold out, 500 a stick.
Unbelievable.
Done.
Amazing. But the audience in East Greenwich, which is a city there, I mean, it's a well-off area, right? It's
the
a neighboring
first
town
most
to mine.
It's the first most affluent town in Rhode Island, excluding tourist revenue.
Yeah.
So if you take out tourist revenue, so again, you know your audience.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
You guys into soccer at all? You guys going to do World Cup?
Yeah,
watch World Cup?
yeah. Our oldest one, well, I say oldest, a 4-year-old. Right? he had his first go around with fall soccer this year, so we did good. We're gonna watch the World Cup. Rhode Island got a new football club.
Yeah, I know. They did in Pawtucket.
Which as an AM radio junkie,
Rhode Island FC.
Yeah, they're all butchering the name, and I'm like, that's a genius name.
Yeah.
Well, why is it a genius name? It's Rhode Island Football Club. Okay, great. In Barcelona, which my godsons are from Barcelona.
Yeah.
Well, they're from Sitges, which is 20 minutes outside of Barcelona. Their football club is called Football Club de Barcelona.
Right. That's it. Yeah, why not, man?
I
Promote
honestly,
Rhode Island, baby.
Promote Rhode Island.
Listen,
Get it on
Rhode
there.
Island is a beautiful spot. We don't do enough for tourism here. We don't promote the state enough. And anything that can bring people here to Rhode Island, absolutely do it. Rhode Island FC is a wonderful name.
Having sat on 3 boards, one of them being Chamber of Commerce, one of them being Warwick Economic Committee, and Warwick Arts, for like an art studio, which was connected to the former mayor, Scott Avedizian, when he was here. Having sat on those boards, it's amazing. When I speak to the economic board, I'm like, yeah, we should do this. And they look at me like I have snakes crawling from my head. And I'm like, dude, Rhode Island is freaking awesome.
It is.
You know? But anyway.
The reason why for World Cup, Placencia actually released a cigar. It's called the Ethfial, which means celebration in Arabic, because it's going to be in Qatar, right? And they're releasing 2,500 boxes of the limited edition in the U.S. market, and then 2,500 boxes for the international market. It's going to be about $650 for 10 sticks.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so $65 a stick.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a Toro Vitola, so 6x52.
Yep. Haven't interviewed Nesta Placencia here on Stogie Geeks. Most of the cigar blends are blended to Toro.
Yeah.
First, and then they backpedal
Yep.
to do that there.
So they're doing a World Cup release, which is pretty cool. 2022 FIFA World Cup. So I'll see if I can find them anywhere. You know me, stick chaser.
Yeah.
I'll go see if I can find some.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Before they disappear. So, but yeah, no, I'm excited. I mean, World Cup is kicking up here really, really soon. So it'll be a fun to watch it with my son, who's been into soccer since he was little tiny and played competition. And you know, he's looking forward to getting back into it. He had knee surgery recently, so he's looking to get back into it next year. So.
Having working in a cigar shop and speaking to some of the patrons, they're like, "Oh, you're Placencia Cigars?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, they're a new company. I'm like,
No.
with all due respect, they're 4th generation.
Right.
They're a fascinating business model. They roll everyone else's stuff first, and then they pay themselves last and market themselves last.
Right.
Which is the genius model. You don't have to collect one check.
Yeah, no doubt.
You don't got to worry about distribution. You don't got to worry about sales. You don't got to worry about sales reps. Any of that stuff. It's a genius business model.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So yeah, I mean, what's going on in your neck of the woods? I mean, those are the articles and news that I had brought in. So
Yeah. Sticks I've been chasing. I mean, I've been really into the Henry Clay Warhawk.
Okay.
Like really into it.
Yeah.
Great morning stick with coffee. Henry Clay Warhawk. I've been into the Monte Cristo Espada signature.
Yep.
Been into that there too. I still can't lay off the Davidoffs.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
The Colorado Claro. You ever had that one?
I have.
That's
it's really good.
It's a really good stick.
Yeah, I like it.
And that's a slow me down stick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've been kind of into that stuff. Still on Rojas.
Sure. Yep.
You know, still on Rojas there. I did try the West Tampa stuff. I like the Habano blend better. The Maduro, I think, needs to relax a little bit.
Yep.
More there too. It just needs a little bit more time.
Yep.
But that's a fascinating story with Rick Rodriguez getting that and started and doing that there too.
Yeah, no doubt.
You know, and just kind of just doing my thing, in my chaos, as Andrew would say.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking for my next step.
No, that's good.
And where I'm going.
Yeah.
So
I've still been going down the Espinosa route. I actually bought some of the knuckle sandwich.
yeah,
Blend.
You
Not
tried
bad.
You tried a Maduro?
I did.
Yeah.
That's what I tried first. I liked it.
Yeah, the Maduro I think is a little bit better
It is.
than the other one.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's an
Yep.
interesting story. I don't know if you had a chance to read the article on tobacco. Do you subscribe to Tobacco Business?
I don't.
Go to tobaccobusiness.com.
Yeah,
Give them your regular email.
Yep.
Tell them your media outlet, Stogie Geeks.
Okay.
And they'll approve you there.
Oh, cool.
You get a bunch of inside information, which I know you and Paul are more into the articles.
Yeah.
I still got to go through my PP Works tutorial on how to post articles. I'm pretty sure I could figure it out, but you guys produce enough articles where it's there. But you there was an article about Eric Espinosa and how Eric Espinosa caught up with Guy Fieri in creating that. There. And without giving away some of the secret sauce over there too. But it talked about this process, and what I think is super cool is because I like to read through the lines from a business perspective, but don't be surprised if Eric Espinosa in 2023, 2024 comes out with some new stuff.
Yeah.
Collab with other. I don't want to use the word celebrity status.
Sure.
But from a Stogie Geeks, you hear it here first type thing. When I make my bold predictions, usually at this time of year, I usually go through what I'm looking forward to for the next year coming out. And Eric Espinosa is spot on with some of his things. He does talk about the process that he went through with Guy and where Guy was and what Guy knew. And he didn't really throw him underneath the bus in the article. He basically said when he came to me on a scale of 1 to 10, he knew a 1. Yeah. And now he probably knows about a 6. And he's coming out with stuff, but don't be surprised if Guy comes out with some more stuff too. With some more stuff too.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that, teaser.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we interviewed Brian Dessend on the show, I don't know, months back. But he just did a Pravada-con down in Florida where he invited a bunch of Pravada members. I think there were like 500 or so that showed up down in Florida, and they did a special conference, like a Pravada. They called it Pravada-con. Eric Espinosa was there, so that may be another collab coming out and doing more with them.
Yeah, Brian's been producing a bunch of stuff coming from AJ.
Yep, ton
for sure.
Ton.
Have you tried? Speaking of AJ, have you tried the Dorado?
I have not.
Yeah, let me tell you something. That is the first AJ stick that I can get into. Non-collab. Like I have said multiple times on this show, it just doesn't. It's a super good stick.
Yeah,
super good stick. It's available everywhere now, so it's not. It's a good stick. It was, and the people I speak to in my rounds are like, "Wow, this is a surprise." That was like their words, not mine. Like this is a surprise coming from that. It's a really good stick.
Yeah.
So,
I jumped into the Dapper world. I had never jumped into Dapper.
Welcome aboard.
I got the Desvalito.
Yeah.
I bought a handful of those, so I'm looking forward to trying them. I've had them in my.
Do you have the La Marenga?
No.
That's
a good one.
That's the one with the skull and the rose.
Yeah.
That's the one.
That's the bomb?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll have to get some of those too.
And the El Borracho.
Okay.
So in order, El Borracho, La Marenga, depending on my mood, will be 1 or 2. But those are my top 2.
All right. Gotcha. Is the Desvalito any good?
Yeah. It's good. It just to me, it's a little. It's I like transition.
Yep.
And it's what you
flat?
smoke.
Is it just flat?
It's good. It just lacks a little transition.
Gotcha.
That I tend to pull out of the La Marenga, but you got to really smoke that one slow to get it. Mm-hmm. But the El Borracho, it's transition all the time.
All right, I'm gonna have to make some investments then.
Nice, Bill. What do you think about this? This is a really good stick.
Yeah, I can't wait to try it, man.
This Diamond Crown, Black Diamond Emerald.
It's I enjoyed it a lot. It has a rich flavor. Almost reminded me of Sumatra blend of coffee.
Really?
Which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. Has a lot of leather components to it. Lingers on your palate. Super good blend.
And it is light going down, which I like.
Yeah.
And thank you. I enjoyed it.
Cool.
Another one other funny story before we break.
Yep.
We just got out of election season, right?
Yeah.
And
want to talk about that?
No. But it was a pretty. It made me laugh. It made me chuckle. local politics here in Rhode Island. You had some local district seats that, a Republican against a Democrat. The Democrat ended up winning. And, you always say that we're in a place right now in politics that we're so polarized. Mm-hmm. It was a pretty cool story, but one of the candidates knew that the other candidate who won enjoyed cigars. It was either the day or two after that they knew they lost. He actually went to her house, knocked on the door, and gave her a cigar for winning and said, congratulations, wrote her a note. And basically said, you want to know what?
Class.
You were a formidable competitor. We did great. We rised above the typical dirty politics. We didn't attack each other. We ran on, our principles. You won.
The way it used to be.
The way it used to be. Yep. You were the better person, and he showed up and handed her a cigar with a nice little note. And I thought it was kind of a cool gesture because he knew that, on election night, she liked to smoke a cigar and, for the victory. And I thought it was a really, really cool story, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was a Rocky Patel, but I looked at the picture and, hey, whatever, all good.
Maybe we'll see more of those moments again in the future.
Was it the white of the decade? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was feeling a little hopeful from the election because a lot of what I consider to be the extremist crackpots went down in flames.
Sure.
And that gave me a bit of hope that there is still room for civility somewhere down the line.
It was a Rocky Patel vintage 1999 Connecticut. That's what he gave her.
They should have emailed joh@storygeeks.com. Ask for a better recommendation. But I digress.
I like Rocky Patels.
Yeah, well,
But I'm not, my palate isn't as cultured as yours.
It's not a matter of culture. It's just, it's marketplace.
That's it.
You know what I mean? I'm sure you guys in cyber, product's okay. Let's move on.
Yeah,
what I mean? It happens. It's the way it goes. Before we wrap up in the next minute or so, any final thoughts on Andrew?
I thought he was outstanding. I can't wait for interview 2.
Yeah.
I love going down the path of, when there's a disruption in your life, how can you pivot and make it an opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. So digging deeper into that and just kind of, it's that whole leadership and support mentality. And like I said, mental health is a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And when you're in that low point of life, the strength that you have mentally is what's going to get you through it. So talking through that is huge for me. And then just digging deeper with him into his passion of cigars, man. I mean, that's I can't wait to get deeper into that.
It's definitely on my purchase list for books.
Yeah, no doubt.
I earlier in my life fought back a lot of, I used to be a very fearful person. Mm-hmm. Not so much today, but anytime somebody's providing guidance about that reminds you that there's a way through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that book looks like it checks all the boxes for me.
Agreed.
So.
Yeah. I will make an effort to get him on. I'll push for February.
And I enjoyed his punk stories.
Yeah. We could. Yeah. It's crazy how he connected with us and all that type of stuff. But yeah, absolutely. My thoughts are honestly like my whenever I'm sitting as the primary host of Stogie Geeks, what's in my mind comes out of my mouth and goes through the microphone, and my brain is on fire with that guy. I'm like, yeah, man, like you know what I mean? Because I've always talked about that parallel for years. I talked to my friends and stuff like that, and then he labeled it as like thing 1, thing 2, and I'll post on the Discord channel the 3 videos I made reference to, which are teasers to his book, but it gives a lot of good flash forward there. And we'll come up with good topics for interview 2, and what I'll do is I'll include you guys on the email list so we can all connect with him when we start to pivot there, and I'll work my magic with scheduling and all of that type stuff there too. Perfect. So this has been episode 375 of Stogie Geeks. Jason and Bill, thank you for joining me.
It's been great.
Paul, thanks for having us.
Thank you for the opportunity for me to still be behind the microphone here at Stogie Geeks. Remember, you want to keep the conversation going all week long, email me at joh@stogiegeeks.com. Behind every cigar, there's a story worth knowing. Get out there and shop local and know your business. We'll see you next time. Peace.